Hi, my name is David. I'm 15. Have you ever had the feeling that your family has gone crazy? My family story is like a thriller or even a horror movie, but it all really happened. I have nobody to share the story with other than you. My dad has his own company that sells cars and spare parts. It's a really profitable business in our city. We can afford almost anything. Many are jealous of us, especially how much my mom and dad love each other. After 20 years of marriage, it seems as they got married just yesterday. They laugh, joke, and flirt with each other. I'm even uncomfortable sometimes. Mom can't take her eye off my dad. She's all over him. But you can't even imagine what horror hides behind this ideal image. This is my sister Gladys. She's 1 year older than me, but I'm scared of her. Without her, my life would be like a marshmallow souffle. I go to an elite school. My dad buys me everything I want: clothes, gadgets, sports equipment. But Gladys ruins my life. Something is wrong with her head. And I'm not making this up. Keep listening and you'll understand. The problem started in my childhood. At first, she broke everything in our house. She cut the casing of the furniture, slashed my comic books, which I was collecting from the age of 5. Then she shaved our cat Swift bald and almost cut off his ear. Can you imagine that? I became afraid of her and asked my parents to install an inner lock in my bedroom. Also, all the knives in our house were hidden. But the performance continued. One time, Gladys broke windows of Dad's car with a rock. I was wearing headphones and playing Xbox, and then I saw my sister. She was standing behind me with a large piece of glass in her hand. I don't know what Gladys was thinking of doing, but I was actually freaked out. I asked our parents to send her for treatment because she was dangerous. Mom resisted. She believed my sister was kind and would not harm anyone. My dad agreed to my mom's persuasion, and soon it happened. My mom was an accountant and helped my dad with the company. She had to go to work from time to time. Someone had to keep an eye on me, and especially Gladys. But, as you've understood, not many wanted to do this. No one held out for long. But 3 years ago, my parents finally got lucky. They found Sandy. It seemed she really needed money, so she tolerated Gladys's episodes. But now, it looks very suspicious. Sandy was a bit older than 20. She was really pretty, more like a Hollywood star than a nanny. I liked the new nanny a lot, unlike my sister Gladys. When Sandy would make food in the kitchen, Gladys would sneak up and throw everything on the floor. I remember when the nanny was going to make pancakes, but my sister poured the dough on her. Then, the entire house and our father's suits. One day, Gladys pulled all of the stuff out of Sandy's purse and buried it all in the backyard. We barely found it. The nanny tolerated it all until a catastrophe occurred. If before Gladys used to play pranks because of dislike towards Sandy, then she obviously crossed the line. I still remember that day. Me and Sandy were doing math. She called Gladys to join us, but my sister didn't want to and ran away. Sandy went after her, as Gladys always had to be in sight. My sister ran out into the garden and then to the pool. Despite the problems with her head, she was very strong and fast. I couldn't compete with her. Ends up, neither could Sandy. Gladys jumped into the pool, though it was cold outside. Sandy asked her to get out of the pool, but my sister didn't listen. I wanted to help, but Sandy said not to get close to the water. She also jumped into the pool to get Gladys out of there, but my sister was resisting and then literally attacked Sandy. To me, it seemed like she was trying to drown our nanny. I loudly yelled and called out for help. I cried and was ready to jump in to save Sandy. The situation was serious. Mom and Dad came back from work at that moment. Dad pulled them out of the pool. Gladys had a strange smile, while the nanny couldn't catch her breath. It all looked really creepy. To keep this case hushed up, my dad offered the nanny a lot of money and asked for forgiveness. I accidentally overheard their conversation. I hoped Sandy would accept the apology and stay with us, but She disappeared after this case. I texted her, called, but she didn't answer. Though Gladys was very happy, even too much, I suspected something was wrong, and it turned out that I feared not for nothing. After that incident, I begged my parents to send Gladys to get treated. It had all gone too far. My dad was really thinking about that, but my mom said she'd never let it happen. She really loved Gladys, as it seemed, even more than me. I always felt it. Mom quit her job completely and said she'd watch Gladys 24/7, but it didn't help. For the last 3 years, Gladys has been doing things, but nothing too bad. Mom justified her every time. I tried to get far away from my sister and often went to the guest house. 2 weeks ago, I was sitting there, bored. Nobody knew where I was hiding. I was lying on the sofa and throwing a baseball at the wall when I heard strange sounds, like mooing under my feet. I fell on the floor and put my ear on it and listened. The sounds were coming from there. I'd never been in the basement of the guest house. I ran around the house to find the door. Maybe an animal got stuck and needed help, but it wasn't an animal. I finally found the entrance and went down to the basement. The sounds were getting clearer. I was near the groaning sound. On the other side of the turn, a surprise awaited me, from which I got goosebumps. I entered the farthest room and saw Sandy. My nanny was tied up and sat attached to a chain. She was fastened to a pipe. She was moaning and crying. She was sitting on the ground, all dirty. There was a gag in her mouth. I couldn't believe my eyes. Did my sister kidnap Sandy and keep her here for 3 years? But what should I do now? Then I heard footsteps. I hid in panic. It really was my sister. She brought Sandy some kind of pottage. My sister looked freaky, like the Pennywise clown. I thought that she wouldn't spare neither Sandy nor even me. I wanted to help, but I was afraid of Gladys, who was crazy. But she wasn't the biggest evil in the story. After my sister left, I went to Sandy. She was happy to see me, but I couldn't release her right then. I needed a plan. Gladys was constantly hovering nearby and could have done something bad. I didn't want to call the police. No TV station would miss such news. Our family would get labeled as crazy for the rest of our lives. I promised Sandy I would soon find a solution and she would definitely be free. Of course, the first thing I did was run to my mom. I was hoping she would help me, but I didn't expect such a turn of events. I told her everything I knew. I said that Gladys needed to be isolated and sent for treatment, and Sandy had to be released immediately. Mom looked at me strangely and was silent. I couldn't understand what was going on. "Mom, our nanny has been in the basement for 3 years," I repeated. She answered, "She's there where she needs to be." What? Mom said that Sandy is dangerous. She wanted to take our dad away, take him away from the family. That's why Mom tied her up and hid her there. That wasn't Gladys's fault. She just helped with feeding the nanny. No one could know about it. Otherwise, we would lose it all. Mom was sure that Sandy immediately fell in love with our father. Mom saw her constantly flirting with him. Of course, such a handsome, rich man. Why not take advantage? If Sandy was to be released, then we would be left with nothing. I was listening to my mother, but I couldn't believe my ears. She looked crazy. I wanted to call the police, but she took my phone from my hands. Then I understood everything. Mom was defending my sister for a reason. She was also ill. It seemed they had some kind of bipolar disorder, maybe even schizophrenia, which my sister inherited from my mother. I was really freaked out and didn't know what to do. What would you do if you found out the same thing? For 3 days, I was sitting in my room and didn't talk to anyone. Then I gathered myself and went to my father. I felt sorry for my mom and even a little for my sister, but now we were all in danger. Surprisingly, my father believed me right away. We quietly solved the problem. My father sent my mom and Gladys to a private clinic for treatment. They agreed, as they were afraid the police and the television would find out. My father came to an agreement with the nanny. He said that he promised her a huge sum of money to keep her quiet. We freed Sandy and sent her to the hospital for recovery. I thought the story with her ended there, but sometime later, Sandy appeared in our house. It wasn't all as innocent as I thought. You know what? Sandy and my father began living together. Even though my mom looked crazy, she was right. My nanny and my father had an affair. I destroyed our family on my own. What have I done? I have terrible doubts. Nobody still knows what happened in our house. Do you think I did the right thing? What would you do if you were me? Write your